Hello, James.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Hello, I sent the presentation to you.
All right, okay. Do you want to load it yourself or you?
Yeah, I can load it myself if you want.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and you do that then.
A short while, sorry for that.
You can see your diary, looks nice.
Yeah, sorry, sorry, but stop sharing. So yeah, sharing. Can you see it now?
You know, just need to put it into presentation mode and then we kick off.
Yeah.
Let's do on slides.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Is that fine?
Yeah, looks fine now.
Yeah, I don't see you guys. I just see the presentation in front.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah.
As long as you're okay with it.
I can do that. So 133. So whenever you're ready, then I can start.
Give it another 1 minute or so and then we can start.
Yeah.
I think it dropped from the presentation mode. It's back on.
Yeah, I will do it. I will start the slide when we start. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Hi everyone. I think we wait for more people to come in, but I think maybe the best thing to do is just get started, and then as more people join in, then we can roll it over. It's probably 20 plus people signed up for these. So hi everyone. My name is James Chuguna, and I work in the National Subsea Centre and also at Robert Gordon University in the School of Engineering. And here to facilitate and support Leon, who is the expert in law, and will give us an expert opinion through his presentation on the legal perspective of hydrogen economy. It's quite a few of us here, but I hope this group will grow up in the next few minutes. And in addition to that, I think just probably worth mentioning that there's a call for papers for a hydrogen conference, which will run in March 14th. And Leon will show a slide on that as we move on. So let's get started, and then more people can join in. You're free to shoot any questions on the chat or ask questions at the end of the presentation. We'll take about 45 minutes or so in the presentation, and then opportunity to ask questions as we move on. Okay, Leon, welcome when you're ready, and we can start on.
Thank you very much, James, and also thank you for inviting me to do the presentation. My name is Leon Moller, and I'm in the law school here at RGU, and I don't know much about hydrogen, but I'm teaching oil and gas law and energy law, and so we're looking at the regulation of the energy sector. And so far, we've not really spent much time on hydrogen specifically, but this is an opportunity for us to look at hydrogen as a future important source of energy in the world, basically. So I'm going to turn off my video camera and put PowerPoint presentation on. So this is part of the Hydrogen Group webinar series, and it's a collaboration, very good opportunity to collaborate with engineering and the National Subsea Centre. So all 4 speakers is now open, as James mentioned. I just want to show you this. Submit a paper, so still submitting. So my talk is on hydrogen, future, and the law. And so very basic structure of my presentation, because I don't know, still developing my knowledge and information about hydrogen itself. So just a short background, and then I will go into the some of the policy and legal aspects, and then I will conclude. And when I started looking at hydrogen, I actually I was drawn very strongly to some of the diagrams and some of the sketches that are reflected in government papers and so on. So I always find them fascinating. To explain how the hydrogen structure is set up, and I know that currently there are countries already producing gray hydrogen, and blue hydrogen with CCS will also become important. Same with green hydrogen, that will be eventually the future energy source towards a greener and cleaner environment. So background is hydrogen is currently enjoying a renaissance, but it is not new. The UK in particular has a long-standing history of hydrogen. Hydrogen is also being put forward in many countries, developed and developing countries, as a future source of cleaner way of life and so forth. Many countries. Since 1842, when William Grove developed the first fuel cell, and Henry Cavendish in the mid-18th century, hydrogen has played a role in our everyday lives, helping to fertilize our fields, to pull out of the gas, so on. Its value as an energy carrier has been recognized since the 1800s. There has been, over the years, many waves of enthusiasm in governments for wider utilization of hydrogen in recent decades, but unfortunately none has actually resulted in any substantial or transformative change. In the 70s, there was a brief interest in hydrogen, but that was stifled by the dependence on rising oil and gas prices for hydrogen scale up in a narrow focus use in the transport sector. Conversely, in the 1900s, the low oil price suppressed the motivation for focused investment in hydrogen because the focus was more on gas. Hydrogen is a low carbon solution which can help to achieve net zero by 2050. As a gas, hydrogen has a distinct set of characteristics. There are a number of uses for hydrogen, and I'm sure that you know all of it. I'm just always in this regard. Hydrogen is also essential for input for a range of chemical processes and industrialization as well. Also noteworthy is many governments have recently launched their hydrogen strategies, and in those strategies, it's very common to see that all of the governments wants to become world leaders in the production of clean hydrogen, including countries in the EU and so on. Germany and Netherlands are currently leading the EU process of grey hydrogen produced from natural gas. UK also uses grey hydrogen as well, but uses around 0.7 metric tons of hydrogen every year as feedstock. Also noteworthy is the UK also launched its hydrogen strategy in 2021, targets of 5 gigawatt low carbon hydrogen production capacity by 2030, and to continue to increase through 2050 as part of its plans to achieve net zero emissions by that date. There are, however, several gaps and uncertainties to be addressed before the hydrogen economy. One of them is that there is a lack of well-defined legislative framework for hydrogen projects in the various sectors. There's very little legislation that specifically relates to hydrogen. Instead, the approach at the moment is that hydrogen projects must navigate the existing legislative landscape that applies to gases more generally. So hydrogen is also captured under the definition of gas in the Gas Act and is therefore regulated as part of the gas network. An initial network regulatory framework is expected to be in place by around 2025. So meanwhile, the networks are envisaged to be delivered through existing framework. Hydrogen developments, this nice sketch here showing a diagram of hydrogen from the energy input, low carbon grid electricity, renewables, natural gas, nuclear, biomass, and other going to upstream where the electrolyzers and CCUS technology will come to play. Then upstream to go through transport states, pipelines or non-pipeline by vehicles, and there will also be some type of hydrogen blending as well. Downstream will be power industry, heating in buildings, and transport. Downstream will be the uses of the hydrogen. And so production of hydrogen, hydrogen storage is also an issue. Transport and distribution of hydrogen. Hydrogen as a fuel, vehicles, electricity, grid issues, gas grid issues, stationary power. So these 8 the areas still have to be clarified as well. Key policy initiatives, as I mentioned, the UK introduced a hydrogen strategy in 2021, but before then, the EU already introduced their strategy in 2020, and it is a strategy for a climate neutral Europe, setting out the path for how hydrogen can be used in this way, make a first step towards setting the European hydrogen market. The idea is to have 6 gigawatt of stable hydrogen electrolyzers producing up to 1 million tons of green hydrogen in 2024. It's up to 40 gigawatt, 10 million tons of green hydrogen. 30. Green hydrogen is a key priority to achieve the European Green Deal and Europe's clean energy transition. The UK's hydrogen strategy also focus on hydrogen, and the idea is to develop a thriving low carbon hydrogen sector in the UK, meet the increased ambition for 10 gigawatt of low carbon hydrogen production by 2030. In order to implement the strategy, the government also came up with Development Action Plan 22, which have more details on actually the development of hydrogen. Scotland also came up with a policy statement in 2020, and the government is always proud to say that they were the first to come up with this policy statement on hydrogen. Vision there is to become a leading hydrogen nation. Scottish government support for a strategic approach to the development of hydrogen economy in Scotland. The ambition of 5 gigawatt installed hydrogen production capacity by 2030 and 25 gigawatt by 20. Subsequently, hydrogen action plan is also drafted to implement the policy statements. The Scottish government also provided significant money for research and to accelerate the hydrogen technology. So this is just also another of those nice diagrams that I picked up from the Scottish government, and the Scottish government's proposed transition to a hydrogen energy economy from grey in the 20s and blue phase 2 to scale it up in the 2030s to the target will be 11 gigawatt to be generated from offshore wind by 2030, facilitated by the decreasing cost of offshore wind, and then finally to establish itself in the green hydrogen phase 3 by 2045. To scale up low-cost green hydrogen production to be able to expand globally towards the net zero target. So, talking about law and lawyers and so on, and the love of meanings and definitions. One of the definitions or meanings that I looked at first when I started getting interested in hydrogen was to look at the meaning of hydrogen. What does it mean? Chemical. It's a chemical element. Chemical element with symbol H and atomic number 1. A chemical element that is the lightest gas, has no color, taste, or smell, and combines with oxygen to form water, according to the Cambridge Dictionary. The Gas Act of 1986, gas means any substance in a gaseous state, which consists wholly or mainly methane, ethane, propane, hydrogen included, carbon monoxide, or any mixtures of the above. So hydrogen is included in the definition of gas under the Gas Act of 1986. Therefore, it also be regulated under the Gas Act 6. It also means any other substances in gaseous state, which is gaseous at a temperature of 15 Celsius and a pressure of 25 millibars, and is specified in an order made by the Secretary of State. Interestingly, in the Netherlands, hydrogen is not included in the definition of gas under the Gas Act. but the Netherlands adopted an offshore wind energy act, and this relates to energy created after the conversion of wind, including hydrogen. So it's interesting the various definitions given by different countries, where hydrogen fits into the scenario. There are quite a number of regulatory bodies that are also involved in regulation of gas and hydrogen. So the Business Energy Industrial Strategy government body, okay, responsible for energy and the industry. They also came up with the hydrogen strategy. Okay, there are also local authorities and town and country planning authorities that also regulate the use of land. They undertake EIAs. They regulate hazardous substances in relation to storage. So hydrogen will also be falling under this classification. The Health and Safety Executive, responsible for general health and safety in UK, they would assess all the local authority decisions and then also sign off private training. The UK Vehicle Certification Agency would also approve hydrogen transport vehicles. The North Sea Transition Authority regulates new pipelines and decommissioning. Ofgem regulates the gas network. Crown Estate for offshore developments owns the seabed up to 12 nautical miles. So anything that happens in the 12 nautical mile zone will need to have consent approval from Crown Estate. Ofgem is the energy regulator for Great Britain and the Office of Gas and Electricity Markets. The purpose is to regulate the energy industry, primarily by granting licenses to companies and ensuring that those companies comply with the requirements and conditions of the license. So it's basically the licensing authority for the energy sector. The NSTA, North Sea Transition Authority, is responsible for licensing of upstream activities in the UK. So it is a non-ministerial government department. It is an independent regulatory gem. The principal objective of Ofgem is across all of its regulation of electricity and gas markets is to protect the interests of existing and future consumers in relation to gas conveyed through pipes and electricity conveyed by distribution or transmission systems. They also have further secondary duties relevant to the regulation of the supplier market. The first is the authorities are generally required to carry out this function in a manner it best calculated to further the principal objective, wherever appropriate, by promoting effective competition between persons engaged in or commercial activities connected with the supply of gas or supply of electricity. In this case, we're talking about hydrogen. So competition is very much a key concept in the regulatory function. The second secondary duty is the authority must have regard to the need to secure license holders are able to finance the activities which are subject to obligations on them. So they have to ensure that licenses have adequate competence, financial competence to carry out the licensing obligations. Under the licenses that we're talking here and the permissions include the licenses under the Gas Act of 1986, and also Ofgem also licenses under the Electricity Act of the gas licenses, transporter, interconnect, shipper, supplier, gas, electricity licenses in transmission, offshore transmission, distribution, interconnect, generation supply. Um, there are also industry codes that will have to be complied with in relation to hydrogen. For example, the Uniform Network Code, Independent Gas Transporter Uniform Network, Supply Point Administration Agreement Retail Energy Code. In addition to this, to these licenses, when the hydrogen, for example, will be put into existing gas networks, then it will be done in terms of the gas safety management regulations. The concentration of hydrogen that can be injected into the UK gas network is 0.1%. I think there are some plans to actually look at increasing this to up to 20%. Planning consent will also be necessary for hydrogen developments. Major hydrogen projects are likely to be nationally significant. Infrastructure projects which require a development consent order under the Planning Act. Smaller projects, pipelines, consents are regulated through the Town and Country Planning Act of 19. In terms of health and safety, the Health and Safety Executive is the regulator of health and safety in general. There are a number of regulations that may apply to hydrogen. Gas Safety Management Regulation in 1996 concerns the flow of gas through the network. All gas transporters must prepare and submit a safety case to the HSE. Safety cases, as you know, were introduced after the Pipe Alpha disaster of 1988. Pipeline Safety Regulations 1996 concerns the pipeline integrity. There are requirements in respect of pipeline design, construction, installation, operation, maintenance, and decommissioning. A pipeline should be equipped with emergency shutdown valves, and its design should take account of the need for success. Also, basis on storage of hydrogen, the Planning Hazardous Substances Regulation 2015, and or the Control of Major Accident Hazardous Regulation 2015. Depending on the quantities involved, under the hazardous substance regulations, consent is required to store 2 tons of hydrogen. Further consent is required when storing 5 or more tons of hydrogen. There's also the Dangerous Substance and Explosive Atmosphere Regulations 2002, which sets out the requirements for the use of equipment systems, potentially hazardous environment, those where hydrogen is produced, stored. These regulations, main purpose of these regulations are to ensure safety reasons. On the transport of hydrogen by road, there's a European agreement concerning the international carriage of dangerous goods by road, which regulates the transport of hydrogen, which is classified as a dangerous good. Hydrogen transport is excluded through 10 tunnels in the UK based on its ADR classification. So drivers must be appropriately trained. Vehicles must meet specifications required for hazardous cargoes. Further pressure equipment safety regulations apply to the design and manufacture of tanks that are used to transport hydrogen. So there already several significant regulations that apply to the hydrogen operations in the UK. So I also want to say a little bit about blue hydrogen and green hydrogen in particular. Blue hydrogen production and storage are principally expected to take place onshore. The principal offshore element of blue hydrogen is in the transport and storage of CO2. Just finally, the Planning Act of 2008 gives power to the Secretary of State to amend the definition of projects, qualifying as a nationally significant infrastructure project, NSIP. Hydrogen projects are expected to have capacity equal to 100 megawatts in hydrogen generation potentially qualifying them as NSIPs, I think more than 100. So on the green hydrogen production storage are principally expected to take place onshore or on an island or hub. Principal offshore element may be in the generation of renewable electricity offshore. Projects may be developed in combination of new offshore wind. There are also some aspects of regulation that needs to be addressed. Things like whether a lease would be required for from the regulator for hydrogen pipeline, whether a new hydrogen pipeline would be exempt from a marine license requirement, whether the oil and gas pipeline terminals are being reused, repurposed for hydrogen transport, affecting safety case to converting to hydrogen, and implications for decommissioning liabilities. It's unclear how the threshold of NSIP might apply to hydrogen producers, whether they would be covered by definition of generating stations. So there are some questions that still need to be addressed when it comes to both in hydrogen. In Scotland, I also like this diagram on the right here, where it shows this dolphin concept, and I think the dolphin concept is just at the new harbour expansion project in Aberdeen. The South Harbour Dolphin project would bring hydrogen onshore, and there are 3 cases that developed during the conceptual phase, I guess, is to a semi-submersible base in the structure. So there will be a pipeline going onshore, and the other one is they have a desalination electrolysis will be performed on a separate platform, and there will be export pipeline, and then the other one is the onshore hydrogen production using electrical cables to bring power back to shore with all electrolysis performed on land. And I guess maybe we can have a discussion on these three different concepts here, and so I'm sure you know more. Then in conclusion, because I've been talking for a while now, is that the hydrogen developments are encouraging, but there are still several legal and regulatory uncertainties and gaps that need to be addressed. A legal framework for hydrogen is essential and will contribute to more stability and investor confidence in the sector. So on that note, James, I think I've come to the end of the presentation. So if there are any questions and answers, maybe we can discuss them. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Riaan. That's really nice coverage of the hydrogen status in terms of legal perspective. Any other questions, please shout out. In the meantime, can I ask a couple of questions, Riaan?
Yeah.
In terms of ownership, if you got, for instance, hydrogen storage in a well which already been deprived, basically is mature well, in a normal decommissioning process, the last owner owns the well. If you use it for hydrogen, who does the responsibility lie on that one?
Okay. Yeah. When I was looking at this topic, I thought about the oil and gas industry and how different the oil and gas industry is from this new activity. On the ownership of wells. Okay, well, before I answer your question, James, I just want to say that I was also thinking about the ownership of hydrogen. Who owns the hydrogen in the UK? The oil and gas, for example, belongs to the Crown. So the Crown owns the oil and gas, but the licensee is getting a license, and whatever the licensee extract from the oil and gas reservoir belongs to the licensee. So the ownership of oil and gas is transferred when the oil is produced, and so the licensee will own the resource. So the licensee will be responsible for the I mean, for abundant infrastructure, like on decommissioning, the operator will always be liable for that. Liability will remain with the operator in perpetuity, as they say in law. But it's not very certain in terms of so the operator will be responsible for the well, the abandoned well, and if they have abandoned it and there's a new owner of the well, the new owner will take over the liabilities of the well and will become the owner of the well. So I guess if the new owner cannot, on decommissioning, so will not be able to decommission, then the old owner, the previous owner, can still be drawn back into the liability under the law, the Petroleum Act. So I don't know if I answered your question by saying that, on the ownership of wells. Yeah.
It's a question of whether that would impact the uptake of old wells or kind of decommissioned, instead of decommission and conversion to resource as a storage vessel, and whether or not. And I think from what you're saying is that if the ability belongs to the new taker, the new investor in gas storage, then it may probably makes them to shy off from taking that sort of investment because you don't know what you're taking.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. We got another question from Alexander, and Alexander, do you want to go ahead and ask your question, please? Sorry, it's Dubem. Sorry. Dubem, can you manage?
Can manage now. It was initially on mute. Thank you, Leon, for this presentation. My name is Dubaim. I'm also gradually asking questions in my research with regards to hydrogen. I understand from your presentation that the current law guiding hydrogen utilization is the Gas Act of 1986, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Based on that, what legal framework is the Dolphin project going to be working on?
The Dolphin project.
Yes, the one, the project located outside Aberdeen.
Well, I don't have much details about the Dolphin project. I know it's to the south of Aberdeen, and so do you know anything about the Dolphin project yourself?
I'm hearing it for the first time, to be honest. I don't have any information.
Okay. Yeah, right. I think I'm not an engineer or technical person, but I think it is a set of wind turbines,
Okay.
and there will be an electrolyzer. Now, the electrolyzer is necessary, my understanding, for the generation of hydrogen. And then there will be a pipeline, and the pipeline will take the hydrogen through the harbor, through the new harbor project, and then towards an energy park is at the back of the harbor. So I mean, so you're asking about what regulation will
what regulation we apply for the project? Yes. Since there is no hydrogen, or rather little or no hydrogen legal framework in place at the moment in the UK. Is it a tailored?
Some of the regulations.
Hello, sir. I didn't hear that.
I say I highlighted some of the regulations that
already
apply to hydrogen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed that one. The only one I saw was the Gas Act, which has an encompassing regulation over including hydrogen, methane, and all the other ones.
Yeah.
I didn't say the specific hydrogen legal framework. I'm trying to see if there is any legal backing to the project or specific contract and legal draft for that particular project, and how it affects the environment and the social impact as well.
Yeah, you're asking very detailed question, and I think that the only answer will be if you look at the project itself, if you can have access to the project,
Okay.
then you can find all those detailed answers there. I think, yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dubem. We got another question from, I think this time, Alexander. Alexander, go ahead.
I think he's on mute. He's trying to type now. Maybe his mic is not activated.
Oh, normally I get help for that. So actually, a bit of Luca here. So just bear with me.
Okay, I think it's okay.
All right.
Thank you, Professor James. Thank you, Leon. Thank you so much. Just to piggyback on Dubem's question, I think it's lying more on the hydrogen strategy for the UK. So those projects that are coming up, such as the Dolphin project, are closely linked with the hydrogen strategies, which have some little legal frameworks, especially from the business and energy best strategy. So if you really want to understand what's going on with the Dolphin, you can then have that link up from the hydrogen strategy at the end of the day. But I also wanted to ask Neon, if you don't mind. So for instance, I don't know if you're following what's happening with the UK fracking. The former prime minister came and then kind of put some ball rolling to fracking, and then the new prime minister came and then it's all reversed. So I was wondering what your thoughts are in terms of policy changes to aspects such as carbon storage. So, for instance, especially in the safety aspects of carbon storage, how policy instabilities could affect the deployment of such technology.
I mean, again, I have to tell you that I'm not up to date with the latest UK, policy statements on fracking and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they reversed. I mean, they decided and then they reversed and so on. Fracking, the onshore oil and gas developments. Yeah, well, I can just tell you that I'm not, currently up to date with the exact position in the UK on fracking. So sorry for that.
Okay, Alexander, that's
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yes.
So, Dubem, is that a legacy hand or you got another question?
That hand was the initial hand I raised. I need to cancel it now.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Rion, another question I had is regarding the proximity to the shoreline, because from your presentation, the Crown owns the Rigo seabed, legally owns the seabed up to a certain distance. So
Yeah.
if you're in the international space, which I assume is the distance after that Crown ownership, and you are, so for instance, for UK operator, do you operate under the same regulations as you would do for oil and gas? I'm thinking here for wind turbine, but also for hydrogen storage underwater, if that become a thing.
Yeah, I think it will be on the same basis as the, under the Gas Act. So it will be on the same basis as for the oil and gas. The Crown Estate regulate up to 12 nautical miles. So anything that happens within that zone need to have the consent from the Crown Estate. But outside, it is the NSTA will probably be the regulator for anything outside the 12 nautical miles.
Is it legally advantageous to be close to the shore within the Crown seabed horizon?
I think so. I'm also thinking about most of the offshore developments, wind developments are within the 12 nautical miles.
Okay, so if you're within that region, does it give you an illegal advantage over being beyond that region, where going to the region where the international waters are?
Maybe more kind of like interaction or relations, a good relationship with the regulator. I don't know what type of advantages will there be. Internationally, outside the 12 nautical miles, it becomes difficult and not so easy to regulate the traffic outside the 12 nautical miles. But within the 12 nautical miles, within the UK's jurisdiction, all the laws apply to the 12 nautical mile zone. Outside the 12 nautical miles, the laws relating to the resources, exploitation of natural resources apply to the UK.
Okay. My other question for up to that is that it's very likely that the hydrogen projects will be managed mainly by risk rather than cost. Where you take the risk and assess the risk for leakage, for storage, and so on. And so you consider whether the risk are worth taking or not, depending on the type of gas you're storing and the purity of it. So the question I have is there, could you comment around the relationship between the risk and legal risk rather, and perhaps the insurance element of it? So the corporates which are basically insuring the businesses which are operating in this hydrogen storage world or hydrogen transport world.
Yeah. On the insurance, I remember when decommissioning became an issue a couple of years ago. There were no insurance for decommissioning, for example.
Right.
However, since then, a number of insurance brokers and companies have actually developed packages specifically for decommissioning of offshore installations. So I guess the insurance industry will also pick up on this new developments, and they will, I'm sure they will be able to develop packages specifically for kind of like to cover the risk offshore and so on for hydrogen developments. But I guess one of the main tools for managing your risk offshore, these offshore projects, is through contracts between the various stakeholders and so on, and between operators and contractors that are going to be involved in the contracts. There are a number of standard type of risk limitation of liability type of arrangements that they have adopted offshore in the oil and gas industry that will probably also be applicable in the hydrogen sector offshore. Yeah.
Anybody else got more question? I can ask one more just in case there's one last one. What's the relationship between? I mean, if you look at the EK legal and the hydrogen framework or CCUS framework, how does it compare with other countries like US, Canada, and Australia, probably the main competitors at the moment?
I think, generally speaking, most countries don't have specific laws on hydrogen. They have a number of policy statements and government strategy documents and so on. But the general law specifically for hydrogen is not so clear, is lacking. So most countries also rely on dealing with the hydrogen developers through existing laws. For example, in the UK, the Gas Act is an existing law that include hydrogen in the definition. So hydrogen is covered under the Gas Act. Other countries have not gone so far, in developing specific legislation and laws. The US, I'm not so sure, but I think the US is probably also more developed than the UK. I'm sure the US will have specific laws relating to hydrogen. The Europe, also some countries have been developing at a very fast rate. At the moment, there is a project in Europe called the HY law project in Europe, and consisting of a number of EU countries, including the UK, in trying to address all the legal and social and policy type of barriers in relation to hydrogen, and identify the gaps and so on. So that project is well in advance, and so most countries will, at the end of the day, so there will be suggestions for every country. I think there are over 25 countries involved in the project. They will be coming out. Some of the suggestions in those countries are that they have to come up with a new law on hydrogen. And
Okay.
in where the law is well established, like the UK's existing framework, at the moment covering hydrogen.
Does it mean then if there's no rule, there's no regulation?
No, no, it is regulated under, under existing laws, like the Gas Act. The Gas Act is the existing law. Ofgem is the regulator.
Thanks very much, Leon. I think we don't have any further questions.
One of the things, James, that I was thinking about hydrogen. When people are talking about hydrogen, they're talking about a number of activities here. They're not just talking about the production of hydrogen. They talk about the storage, transportation, distribution of hydrogen. Hydrogen is a fuel for vehicles and vessels and so on. Electricity grid and stationary power. So they talk about a number of things. So it's difficult to actually have one law that will cover all those activities. So there are already laws in existence that cover like things like transport or vehicles, electric cars and so on. The distribution network of energy, for example, should also include hydrogen, for example. So it is difficult to come up with one comprehensive law that will cover everything. What the Netherlands is doing, that example that I referred to, the Netherlands came up with an offshore wind energy act, and in that they call it energy. So they're going to include combined gas and electricity in energy. So you'll probably see a number of countries come up now with energy legislation. The energy legislation will cover both the oil and gas and the electricity sector, and hydrogen will be included into those new modern type of legislation. Thanks.
Thanks very much. That's really nice feedback on that. Rihanna, what I can say is that thanks very much for giving your time up and coming up and give us this presentation and our good insights on that. Again, thanks very much for the audience. Managed to come today. It's a Friday, and I think we didn't have a big number as we wanted, but these folks stayed on and helped us with the presentation as well. I think that's probably all I can say for now. So I wish you all the very best weekend, and hopefully we can link up closer in the near future. But as well, there's a hydrogen conference coming up in March. So just if you think you want to present yourself and folks, please spread the word, and look forward to meet you there as well. Okay. Thanks very much again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.